In this video, I want to show you the measurements I used in drilling holes for Komplement hinges on a set of custom Pax doors. I recently hacked an Ikea Pax wardrobe into an under-the-stairs storage unit. Essentially, I cut a Pax unit at a 45-degree angle so that it fits under the stairs from my basement. The last step was to add doors to it using 3/4 inch MDF, and I wanted to utilize the pre-drilled holes on the Pax unit to hang the doors. However, because my doors were small, I wouldn't have been able to just transfer the locations of the hinge holes from a normal Pax door. On normal Pax doors, the center of the first hinge hole is 12.3 centimeters from the bottom, and the center of the second hinge hole is about 105 centimeters. In my case, it didn't make sense not only for my first door, but this spacing already extended beyond the height of my second smaller door. I wanted to space the hinges out more evenly throughout the length of the door, like there, and one closer to the top. After doing some measurements and testing, I found out the measurements needed so that I can add hinges exactly where I wanted. Here's my test piece where I added 5 hinges, 4 of which were right next to each other, and a 5th one spaced 2 holes apart. As you can see, it worked out well. A bit of a preview. Here are the final doors installed, with the hinges where I wanted them to go. There's a great video by another YouTuber showing the measurements she had used for drilling holes for hinges in her DIY Pax doors. And this video adds to that in case you needed the hinges placed in a different spot than where they normally go. I wanted to figure out where to drill the holes on the MDF door for every 2-hole increment on the Pax unit. The hinge piece that gets screwed onto the Pax unit used 2 consecutive holes for mounting. And just to show you what I mean, as an example, here on one of my doors, I needed my second hinge to be placed in the 9th and 10th hole above the first hinge. And the answer is, for every 2-hole increment on the Pax unit, the center of the hinge hole on the door is 6.4 centimeters apart. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a test piece with the measurements laid out. Just to orient you, the left side here is the bottom of the door, and the bottom is the inside of the door where the hinges would go. I started by drawing 2 lines that span the entire height of the door. The first line is 22.5 millimeters from the bottom edge, and this is the line where the center of the hinge hole lies. The second line is 32 millimeters from the edge, and this is the line where the center of the screw holes lies. Then, the first measurement you want to make is for the center of the first hinge hole, which is measured at 123 millimeters from the left, or the bottom of the door. This measurement ensures that the bottom of the door sits perfectly flush with the bottom shelf of the Pax unit. So again, 123 millimeters from the bottom, and make that mark on a 22.5 millimeter line. I've drawn a straight line upwards from that mark. Next, you want to measure 22.5 millimeters to the left and right of that line on the 32 millimeter line. These are the centers of the screw holes. Now moving our way up, to find the center of the next hinge hole, it will be 64 millimeters from that first line. To find the center of the screw holes for that hinge, extend that mark upwards, and to the left and right of that, measure 22.5 millimeters. The next hole will again be 64 millimeters from the previous mark, and so on and so forth. I highly recommend marking every 64 millimeters through the entire length of your door so that you can step back and see exactly where you want the hinge placed, and also to make sure that's measured out correctly. I'll be painting these doors anyways, so I'm not worried about marking them up. Here I'm drawing the 22.5 and 32 millimeter lines. I've got the first hinge hole marked at 123 millimeters from the bottom. 22.5 millimeters to the left and right of that mark the center of the screw holes. The center of the next hinge hole is 6.4 centimeters or 64 millimeters away from that first line. Here you'll see I've marked up every 64 millimeters for the entire length of the door. I've decided that I'll be putting 4 hinges on this door, here, 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 and one at the bottom. On my second smaller door, I will be putting 3 hinges. Okay, now on to drilling the holes. Here is my Forstner bit. It's 35 millimeters wide. I highly recommend a scrap piece of MDF to practice on. Not only will this give you a feel for drilling into MDF, but you'll also see how deep you'll need to drill your holes without punching through the front. Now onto the real doors. A big piece of advice here, don't drill out your screw holes yet. What you want to do is place the hinge in the hole and remark the center of the screw hole. This is because the hinge hole might have moved a couple of millimeters up or down when you were using the Forstner bit, and if you drill the new screw holes without testing it out with the hinge, you will have screw holes that aren't centered. Not only will you not be able to screw in your screw later, you also risk lifting up and damaging the MDF around the hole. Learning from that, I'm using a self-centering drill bit with the hinge placed on the door to make sure that the holes are completely centered. The screw holes are actually 5 millimeters wide, so I'm widening those holes with a proper size drill bit, and I've marked with painter's tape how deep I need to go. As I'm getting ready to install the doors, I ran into a bit of a problem. Because of the angle of the stairs, I couldn't get my screwdriver to fit, so I had to buy the special angle tool to screw in the hinge plate. Here are all the doors installed. They still need to be painted and have hardwood added, I've also had to trim some of the edges down because they were too tightly fitted. Overall, I'm super happy with this project and how the hinges fit. I hope this helps you with your custom doors. And if you liked what you saw here, please consider subscribing to my channel. And I look forward to putting out more content like this. Thanks, and take care.